Welcome to the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hours, where he'll help you fix your finances once and for all. To reach Roy, call 615-843-2999. That is 615-843-2999, or visit RoyMatlockJr.com. Now, here's your host, Roy.
All right, Roy Matlock Jr. here, and we are going to be talking today, as we always do, about money and getting ahead and, education and, get your financial wellness going in the right direction. But we're ending up a year and just a few more months left. If you're tuning in right now, if this is a podcast, it's still going to end up being good for you to, kind of get prepared. I always try to, in the month of November, I've been doing this. I think my very first time I started doing this was in 1993. I started working on a 60-day plan. So when I rolled into the new year, everything was, up and running. And, I believe in written plans as a way to, end up where you want to be. It's just like in the old days. Now we use our GPS on our phone. Back in the old days, we got a map and we mapped out our direction. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to map out a direction. So when you finish the year off, you're going to be able to look at things and say, all right, I'm ready to go. I'm going to have a good year financially. And the whole idea behind a good year financially is that you have a profit, and the profit is your net worth, and you move forward that way. And so when you're growing your net worth, that one day becomes what you get to live on if you decide to retire. Some people like, me, that are crazy that I don't think I'll ever retire. I like doing what I'm doing, and I don't have the freedom to do it. But at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. So we're going to start with the mindset that most people don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. You've heard that before. It doesn't matter if you're earning $50,000 or $500,000. The principle's the same. You got to know where you are before you can decide where you're going. So you got to look at your situation. So step number one, we start out, we build it like a house. And, the most important thing that you can do when you're building your finances, or if you're building a house, first thing they do is they build their foundation. And the foundation is things that are simple yet not done. And I had a friend of mine call me this week, and he had downloaded our budget form. And if you go to RoyMatlockJr.com, you can find that budget form. And we were just talking about, budgeting, and he was looking at his credit card statements over the last year, and this guy does good. And he looked at it, and he says, I just spend a lot of money on stuff probably don't need. He said, I want to tighten up, going forward. And save more money and do things like that. And so I said, well, the most important thing that you can do is to set up a budget. And most people, when they do a budget, they don't know how to do it. They begin the budget by having an accounting system. Now, you've got to have an accounting system to kind of figure out where you are, or another way you look at it, you say, well, all right, what did I do this year? But keep in mind that that's only once that you want to do that. You want to look at what you've done in the past, but then going forward, you want to be able to make a decision on what you're going to do going forward. And so the budget to me is the starting point of everything. I remember back in the early days when I first got into the financial business, I was talking to people about, saving money and getting ahead and all that stuff. And then what I found out was most people, they didn't plan for things. So let's talk about how to set up a budget that works. All right. Another way of calling it is a cash flow plan. Been doing this and teaching this for 30 plus years. And I'm telling you, it's the key to moving forward. So step number one is we take a look at where we're at. And if you go to that budget form and download it on my website, you can get kind of an idea where you can put in your numbers. It shows you things that you're doing. And then we have recurring expenses, and then we have variable expenses. And so your variable expenses really are a couple things. One of them is things that happen regular, but don't happen monthly. And so let me give you an example. If you were to buy a car, which everyone has a car, you will one day have to pay for maintenance, and that will occur. Now, it doesn't happen so often regularly. You may have a breakdown. You may have something happen. But the bottom line is that something is going to happen. And you have maintenance on your house, and you have, things that recur, usually recreation on a regular basis. You may want to go on a trip and take a vacation and take time off. And so we have those type of things. And then we have our regular recurring type expenses. Those are things like your house payment or your rent, your electricity, and things like that. And so what we do is we start by having, if you're married, you have one account. I call it the draft account. And I call it draft account because that's where we're going to draft out everything that's recurring. And we start with the draft account, so all money goes into the draft account. Then we're also going to have a second account, and that's going to be, if you're married, you would have two of them, all right? And you would have, that's your personal weekly spending account. And so what happens is all money comes in, all money is drafted out to recurring expenses. But then inside of there, we look, and that also includes your retirement plans and paying yourself first, monthly drafts on your investment accounts, or maybe it's your 401k that you've got before it gets to you. But at the end of the day, you've got that draft account. Everything comes in and everything goes out on a regular basis. And then we build into that a sinking fund. The sinking fund is that we know that we're going to spend X amount of dollars on maintenance, car replacement, home maintenance, different things that don't recur regular. We're going to build that in. And so what's going to happen is this draft account's going to get bigger, and then you're going to go on vacation. You're going to be able to pull the money out, and then it's going to get bigger again and go down and so on. And before you know it, what's happened is that all of these unexpected expenses, like buying tires for your car or a vacation that you weren't, or Christmas, whatever it may be, you already planned for it. It's already built in there. You decided what you're going to do. This is about a 2-hour process, and you decide that you're going to spend X amount of dollars on these things. And then when it comes time to do it, the money's there. You move it into your two different accounts, and that will be your personal weekly spending account. Those are checking accounts that you have debit cards on that you can use. And at the end of the day, if you have a weekly spending amount of $300, whatever it may be, then what's going to happen is you will in turn spend $300, and you look at if there's any money left that week, that's under budget. And if you spend it, but you built it in. And so we're going to continue down this path of getting prepared, for the new year. My name's Roy Matlock Jr. I want to encourage you, whether you're already investing in real estate, weighing it out, mark your calendar for Summit to Scale. That's November 20th here in Nashville at Rocketown. I'll be speaking along with some of these big guys in that business, Bill Faith, Pace Morby, and Atticus LeBlanc, real world strategies. I believe that, real estate could be, for some people, a great place to be. Visit RoyMatlockJr.com for tickets. All right, we are continuing. If you're just tuning in, this is kind of the checkup to get you prepared for the new year and get your plan in place. My name's Roy Matlock Jr. We help people with money. That has been the case, and I want to encourage you to always visit RoyMatlockJr.com because we have a lot of good stuff there. I was talking about the budget as we went in, and then the second Saturday of each month we do a live webinar, and I'm getting ready to do one this coming weekend, and it's called 40 of my best ideas of 40 years of helping people with their money. And so just a lot of examples and things like that can help you. So you can register for that along with many, many other resources to help you get moving. And so we're going to continue on this budget cash flow. So what happens is we have 3 simple accounts. We're going to have a draft account. All income comes in and goes out and drafted automatically. It builds up over time because you have money set aside to keep you from going in debt or having emergencies that are not really emergencies, they're regular things. We have a weekly spending account for variable expenses, so that way you know what you spend each week, and then at the end of the week you stop spending, and then Sunday you move it again. This is when you get really on board with controlling your money. An emergency savings account that you have 3 to 6 months. We'll be talking about that, set aside maybe in a money market account. So now if we do have a real emergency is you lose a job, you get hurt, something like that, and you can't work, then you do that, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to have inside of that draft account our retirement plans. You're going to make sure that you take advantage of your company matches. I run into people all the time that, they got free money and they're not signed up for the 401k. And so we want to make sure that is happening. And so what we're doing is inside of our draft account and our 2 spending accounts, we're controlling all of our financial affairs. We have everything built in. We now have a good, solid budget that's easy to deal with. One more thing you can do is add a text message or email that's sent to you every morning that shows you how much money is in those accounts. So that way you know how much you have left for the rest of the week. And so it's simple. You do that, but if you start doing it, you're going to feel in control of your finances. And that's the first step is we're going to spend less money than we make. And that's the key to getting ahead. And then we invest the difference between the gap and the spending gap and the income gap is your quality of life gap is what I call it. So if you have a big gap between what comes in and what goes out, you get rid of stress and so on. We use the emergency fund to keep you from borrowing money. We use the emergency fund to keep you from cashing in a retirement account or cashing in when the market's down. So we have some cash in the event something happens. It tends to happen. It's always at the wrong time. It allows you to cut your insurance costs by raising your deductibles, which allows you to take more risk. If you have an older car, you can take the risk of a wreck and drop the collision on it. So all these different things. You don't want to reduce liability. You want to raise liability, maybe get an umbrella policy. But this is foundations, all right? So the emergency fund, even though it's getting maybe 3% or something like that in a money market account, it's allowing you to get a return by not paying penalties and interest and things like that. And so now we've done that. So we're building the house, got a budget. Now we got an emergency fund. What we're going to do is we're going to eliminate debt, pay off bad debt. I'll get more detail a little bit later on that, and free up money for investing. What is bad debt? Bad debt is something, A, that you can't afford, B, something that is tied to things that go down in value, all right? So we want to look at, things like that. When we're setting up our budget, the first thing I like to do is look at my total income for the year. And I'll look at that. So let's say that your total income is $100,000. Make the assumption that when you're going through that list on the budget forms, that you look at it and you say, well, what if I had no expenses? What would happen? What would my life be like if I had just no expenses? Now, obviously, we don't. We're going to always have expenses. We have to eat. We have to, do things like that. But what if you had no expenses and you decided that what you were going to do is you were going to fire all the expenses, just not have any expenses. And then you're going to rehire the ones back that you really think are necessary. Generally speaking, when you do that, you will save 10 to 15% of what you've been normally spending because you're saying, why did I spend that much on this? Why do I have this item being drafted out of my checking account that I don't even ever use? And so you just fire all those expenses. And so we do that. This will also free you up money to pay off debt and getting rid of bad debt. Good debt is something that, you can afford. It's tied to something that goes up in value. So in looking at that, let me give you some advice. Don't pay off your low interest mortgage. You'll never get it ever again. Keep it forever. No reason to do that. And there's nothing wrong with borrowing money to do things that cause a return or spread over and above what you borrow for. I'll give you an example. Opportunities come along, and if you don't have the ability to do something for those opportunities, that's called opportunity cost. We were taught that in the economics course. The opportunity cost is the cost of not having the cash in order to take advantage of a good opportunity, and they come along. I can tell you that. I've had a lot of opportunities come along in the early days that I couldn't take advantage of, and in the later days that I did take advantage of. And so we want to make sure of that. So we're going to eliminate bad debt and only have good debt. Good debt you can afford. Bad debt you can't. Good debt ties to something that goes up in value. Bad debt ties to something that goes down in value. You would set up in many cases, I've encouraged almost all of my clients that have a lot of equity in their home set up an equity line of credit that allows you to get an additional emergency fund and gives you opportunity money that you can do things with. And so we do that. We're going to go on, this is part of the foundation. So foundation is budget, emergency fund, debt elimination, get rid of bad debt. Income protection is the last thing. That's where we make sure that we protect our income, life insurance, health insurance, disability. It's really income and asset protection, and that builds up your foundation. Now, once you've done this, you're in a position where you can start moving in the right direction. All right, and the right direction is that, you're going to start growing. All right, and make things, automate. All right, that's my big key element. I always have told people that you want to get ahead, just get it automated. So we have a draft account. We have money going to different places. We're paying ourselves first. We're making things happen like that. So we start that. Now, what if you have debt and you're trying to eliminate it? I'm going to give you a couple ideas about that. First thing you got to do is you got to stop digging the hole. And that means that you cut expenses. I'm going to give you in the next segment some areas you can free up money to save. But the first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to have a plan. And I always tell people do minimum payments on all of you. If you have multiple credit cards, set it up automatically to do the minimum payment, and then take an example of $300 a month. And you're going to apply that extra money to the smallest debt. Then that debt's going to be paid down. We're going to then take that $300 a month, do it to the next one. That's called a debt stacking. You can do it that way. Another way you can do it is if you've gotten yourself in trouble and you do have equity, you can do an equity line of credit. I have no problem with that. You can either pay it down or not pay it down, but the one thing you want to do is make sure that the budget's in place prior to doing that. So we're getting ourselves in order. We're going to do a analysis on our insurance, which will allow us to save a ton of money generally and get better coverage. We look at all things insurance. I have an insurance marketplace that I can do that for you. So anyway, we're plugging the leaks and finding the money is what we're doing right now. So we're fixing the problems and we're building that solid foundation. When we come back, I'm going to give you some ideas on how to free up money to save. Be sure and visit RoyMatlockJr.com to find out all of the good things that we have to help you learn. We'll be right back. Roy Matlock Jr. here, and we have been talking about getting your plan together and getting prepared for the new year so you have a year that you look back and you say, man, this is good. I like this. I'm moving forward. The number one financial mistake people make is procrastination. They just don't do anything. They have great intentions, poor follow through. Execution is the key. I have always told my clients that I'm an executor for you. You meet with me, you meet with my guys, and we actually execute a plan. And then you don't worry about that anymore because you have a plan in place and execute that plan. But when you get started, the typical financial mistake will cost you $50,000 to $500,000 over your lifetime. The number one financial mistake is you wait too long to get started. But at the end of the day, what we're going to do is we're going to work on where we're at so we get started and we start building a foundation. And so before you can grow wealth, you got to stop the leaks. Many cases, you have too much month at the end of the money. It really doesn't have a lot to do with if you've got an income above the poverty level. Generally speaking, you can be making $300,000 a year. You can be making $100,000 a year. You can be making $70,000 a year. You can definitely spend more money than you make. I mean, all you got to do is look at how one of the richest guys on the planet became the richest guy on the planet, Jeff Bezos, and that's selling you stuff, all right, and giving you access to buying things all the time, anywhere, 24/7, worldwide. If you want something, just pull Amazon out and you're off to the races. And so now let's look at what I call 7 quick ways to free up money to save. The first one is to pay yourself first. How do you do that? You just set up an account. We do that in as little as $50 a month. People can open an investment account or a money market account. When I first got started in 1986, 85, I set up a money market account and a mutual fund account that drafted my checking account every month. And back then it was all paper and all that. The good news about it is nobody starts them. The better news is nobody stops them. We found out that if we could get somebody putting money in on a monthly basis and it drafted their checking account, it's like a 95% persistency. People just kept doing it because it's kind of like your Netflix account. You may never watch Netflix, but they keep pulling that money out of your account, and it's just too much trouble to stop. And so the good news, if you get one of these set up, what will happen is you'll forget about it, get used to it, and you'll start moving forward. And then one day you'll wake up and you'll say, man, this is pretty cool. I got some cash. I'm starting to accumulate some money. Second place that I find is you just got to adjust your lifestyle a little bit. All right. And in adjusting your lifestyle, you kind of get in the mindset. You say, well, let's just take a look, and decide what's important. All right. So we're going to kind of adjust it around that. All right. Is it that important that I have a 2-year-old car that when it becomes past 2 years, I got to get a new one? Is it that important? All right. Things like that. You adjust your lifestyle a little bit. Maybe you don't, I'm telling you, the malls, if it was left up to me, the malls would be out of business. I never go to the mall, but any of those places. But, some people, they don't have anything to do, so they just go spend money. Now, I'm not one of them. Now, I might be on the golf course, but the point being is that you adjust your lifestyle a little bit, just a little bit. And to give you kind of an example, if I heard this many years ago, if you own rental properties and you're losing $100 a month per rental property, how many can you afford to own? And you're like, there's a limit, right? Because you're losing money on all of them. But if you were making $100 a month, how many could you afford to own? If you're really making you get an unlimited number of them. And what's the difference? It's $200 a month. You're either losing money or making money. And that's how credit cards operate. You end up getting credit card debt because you're spending more than you make consistently. It may not be that much, but what happens is you're spending more than you make, and it adds up. Then one day you wake up and you're like, golly, I got all this debt, and how did I get there? So we adjust our lifestyle a little bit. Of course, we have the written cash flow plan. That's where you go to the budget forms, go to my website. You can find that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to prioritize what matters most. When we're looking at things, we're going to make a decision. This is important. This is not quite as important as that. And so therefore we're going to eliminate that because we think this is more important. All right. And you want to have, financial security, saving money for people that are broke. Generally, they look at it as painful. Saving money for people that have money is pleasure. They like it. They say, you know what, I'm saving this money. It makes me feel good. It's kind of like working out. If you are trying to get on a workout plan, generally speaking, people look at it as painful and they avoid it. So what the people that do that are working out, they generally look at it as it's painful to not be in shape. And so they go toward working out. All right. So we do things like that. If you're really motivated, you earn some extra income. You do something on the side. And, my mindset has always been that the most important thing you can ever do for your finances is find something you like to do, get good at it, and then ultimately try to find a way that you can monetize it and be self-employed or own a business doing it. So earn extra income. If you listen to my show right now, one of the things that we have is a system for people to enter into our business. Quite frankly, it's as crazy as it sounds. We have more people that want to get their finances straight with us than we have people to follow up on. And so if you would like to find out more on that, go to the Join the Team section of Roy Matlock Jr., and you can find out more how that works. And we teach you how to do this stuff, but you get to learn from the inside. You realign or sell unused assets. Go in there and just look at all the junk and all the things that you're not using. And these are little areas to free up. I always tell people never buy retail. The first thing, when you decide to never buy retail, if you say, whatever I'm going to spend my money on, I'm going to buy it used. Immediately, you're going to cut your business expenses. You're going to cut your personal expenses, whatever it may be. You're going to be cutting expense because you're buying it used. I remember back in the days, I have triplets that, for some of you may know that, they're 28 years old now, and we needed a van, and so we went and bought a minivan, and I wrote a check for it. Went and I was just busy, and I was like, here, I'm just writing a check, all right, and paid cash. And then I went and bought a sports car and paid cash for it. The first one was like, I don't know, it's like 14, 15,000. The next one I paid like 60,000, wrote a check for it and bought them new. And and this is where I'd gone and done all the things, and, paid cash, and then I drove those things. And I was like, nah, I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. Why would I drive it off the lot, and do that? So since then, I've not bought another new car, and that would be, alive. That's since 2000 and maybe. I've never bought a new car, and I can buy a new car, but I decided I would let someone else pay the depreciation, and usually works a lot better. The last one, I bought a Mercedes. I paid $60,000 and had 20,000 miles on it, and paid cash for that. And the new one was $110,000, and so somebody paid $50,000 to drive at 20,000 miles. I mean, that's just smart stuff if you're wanting to get ahead. And so you start thinking like this, and you're saying, okay, I'm plugging the leaks. I'm going to buy new stuff. I'm going to buy used stuff. I'm going to get, all these different things, with the idea that you're going to take that money that you free up and you're going to stick it in places that pays you. Assets pay you. Remember that. If you own an asset, it'll pay you to own it. If you own a liability, you pay to own the liability. And so you want to accumulate assets and eliminate liabilities. That's the way I've always tried to operate. It's pretty common sense. You say, hey, I put my money into this. Am I going to have to keep putting money into it, or is it going to pay me back? I like it paying me back. Visit RoyMatlockJr.com. We've got some upcoming events. We'll be right back. My name is Roy Matlock Jr. All right, we're finishing up today, and this is kind of getting you prepared, foundational stuff that will help you, get moving and ready for the new year, not let another year pass you by, because, procrastination is it. And so once we've set up, if you're just tuning in, and you can always check out our podcast, Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hour. We've got a YouTube channel. We've got this whole show now on video. So I've got that radio face that you can tune in and see. That's what people say. No, I'm joking. But the point being is you can look at all of this and review it. We've got all of this on YouTube, and we've also got it on the podcast. You can listen to it. So now, once we've set up some basics, and the basics are we're spending less than we make, we've got our budget, we've got our emergency fund, we've got our insurance and stuff like that in place. We're doing a lot of that. We're going to get into now developing what we call the FIN number, the financial independence number. And the financial independence number, that's the amount of money that you would need to live off of from your investments for the rest of your life and never have to go back to work. So what you want to do is you start out and you say, how close am I to my FIN? Well, right now, if your income stopped, how long could you live? If your income stopped, how long could you live? Oh, a year. Okay, well, you're not there yet. The goal is get to a point where you say, if my income stopped working, I could live forever and generationally. All right. And so that's what the goal is. That's your financial independence number. And so a rule of thumb on your financial independence number, 20 times earning your annual goal, whatever it is. So if you need if you want 100,000 a year in today's dollars, you would need maybe $2 million set aside. And that's pretty doable, that you'll be able to take a piece of it, stick it into something that gives, a guaranteed lifetime income, maybe an annuity, and the other, maybe 2/3 of it are in the market, and maybe some bonds, stuff like that. But the long and short of it is 20 times your desired income. All right. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go in. I like the SEC.gov calculator. If you want to do some stuff on your own, I use that thing a lot. And what it is they've got calculators that show compound interest, which will allow you to say, hey, if I put $100 a month away for 30 years, what will happen? What would it grow to? And then they also have one in there that's a goal. It says, hey, I need $2 million and I've got this many years left. The only thing they don't do is include inflation. So if you've got a 20-year goal, just figure whatever your goal is today, you probably need double that with inflation and so on. So your path to your financial independence number is made up of three things: time, money, rate of return. So number one is, how much time do you have? Number two, how much can you save each month and what do you have saved? And then number three, what are your investments going to earn over time? So now the first thing that we can all control is time, and that is start today. All right, don't procrastinate. The amount of money that you can save will be dependent upon your situation. We talked about earlier ways to free up money to save, how to cut your expenses, how to fire all your bills, all that kind of stuff. If you run a business, I always look at, what my overhead is. I say, hey, I know what I know now. If I didn't have this expense or this employee working for me right now, would I rehire them? If the answer is no, then you need to cut cost and free you up some stuff. I've done that many times where I just go in and I'm like, you know what? This is no fun. I'm not making enough money for the effort I'm putting in, so therefore I'm going to look at my overhead and do some things. And so we do that kind of stuff. And then rate of return, that's understanding how investments work. You become an owner, not a loaner. That means that we get our money into the markets. And how do we do that? I like professional money managers to do that. And I read, I've got a stat with one of the groups that I've been involved with for many, many years. And I'll give you some stats about how a professional money management company can operate. And it really is, it's almost, I don't know. Let me just read it to you and I'll give you the number. So they sent out a piece, and here's what their piece said. They said, we've had 10-year returns. If you take any 10-year period from all of our funds going back to as long as almost 100 years, here's how we manage our money. There's been 7,517 different 10-year periods. If you take all of our funds, and we've made a profit over that 10-year period 99.8% of the time. We have at least doubled the money 80% of the time. So that means that if you put your money in, all the good, the bad, the ugly, 80% of the time they doubled, 46% of the time they tripled, and 21% of the time they quadrupled the money over a 10-year period. Now, when I see that, that's when I say, no, you're not going to beat them. You're not going to beat them. So don't think you're going to beat them. You're not going to beat them, not over a long period of time. You might get lucky, but you're not going to beat them. And so what I always tell people is we go toward professional money managers that they wake up every day and their job is to make money grow, your money grow, and you pay them a fee for doing that. But at the end of the day, you end up doing better. All right. We want to automate contributions. This is part of setting up your destination, your financial independence number. Take advantage of your 401k or IRA. You use dollar cost averaging. Always do IRAs monthly is what I tell people. If you put $7,000 a year in, divide it by 12, let's do it that way and then have it drafted. That's dollar cost averaging, but it also sets up an automated plan, just like your house payment. You got to pay your house payment or rent. If you don't, you get kicked out. If you don't pay yourself first, you're broke when you retire. So let's just set up a bill, paying yourself first, dollar cost averaging in. Dollar cost averaging means that as the market goes down, you automatically take advantage of buying more shares at a lower price, buy low. All right. And when it's high, you buy less shares, and that allows you to get a lower average cost per share. If you're self-employed, you can do a SEP or a solo 401k. This allows you, if you're an independent contractor, especially, to be able to put a lot more money in, and you can do that same thing. And you don't have to do it every year. You do it based on your profits. But what I always tell people again is let's have an automated system, and then at the end of the year, we put it into the SEP and make things happen. The last piece of the GPS is make sure one event doesn't wipe you out. There's two main risks that really devastate people. The first one is dying too soon. And the second one is living too long. And so let's talk about this. So let me give you some examples of why it's ridiculous to not take care of your family when it comes to premature death. I did some research. I went in and I ran some rates. And, the whole idea is that You buy term life insurance in the event something happens. All right. It's not a permanent plan. It's an income replacement plan. So what is term life insurance? You buy it, say, for 20 years. If anything happens along the way, it will pay that off. The premiums are very inexpensive relative to the death benefit. And now there's things called living benefits. So if you become critically ill, chronic, terminal, you can actually get that benefit up front. Let me give you an example. Rule of thumb, 10x your income. If you make 100, you need $1 million. That's kind of a rule of thumb. It's not completely all the time right. But here's what a 20-year term would cost somebody at age 30. $1 million, $60 a month. On the low end, $106. On the high end, that's non-tobacco. And this is one that I looked up that doesn't even have physicals involved. You just go in, you fill it out, and you'll be done. You can find out about it on the website. If you're 40, you pay between $100 and $180 a month for $1 million. Let me explain it this way. You've got a family. You pay $60. A month later, something happened. Your family gets $1 million. That's what we're talking about. If you're 50, a 20-year term will run between $300 and $500 a month. And you look at it and say, well, $300 a month. Well, if something happens to me, it pays $1 million. If 5 years into it, I've put $20,000 into it, it pays $1 million. It's replacing my income. So that's the dying too soon element. To me, it's no excuse. Okay. Living too long, you don't want to run out of money. What's it take to, at 10%, what's it take to accumulate $1 million? Well, if you have 20 years, because you waited, it's $1,400 a month. If you have 30 years to do it, to get your $1 million, it's $500 a month. If you have 40 years, it's only $188 a month. So anybody young, a couple $100 a month makes you a millionaire. Now, let me show you the next secret. The next secret is go get $100,000 first. If you get $100,000 first. Now, how do you do that? I always tell my young listeners, if you're both working, just live on level loan for a while and go save one of your incomes and do that for 3 years. Let's say you're making $80,000 a year and you figure out one's making 30. You say, we're going to save the $30,000 a year and we're going to live on 50. We're going to watch TV and set ourselves up for the rest of life. We're not going to be out spending money, doing things like that. If you have $100,000 to start, you don't have to save anything. Matter of fact, for 40 years later, at 10%, you'll have $4.5 million. If you have 30 years to go and you have $100,000, you don't have to save anything either. $1.7 million 30 years later. If you have $100,000 and you have 20 years, you're going to have to save $476 a month. So the point being is, why wouldn't you sacrifice, get your 100 G's put aside, and then you put yourself in a great position? So that's how you become a millionaire. There's no reason not to. And so anyways, we close out, do a quick financial tune-up, and let's get a fresh start going into the new year. The first one, you review all of your insurance coverages and beneficiaries. Make sure things are up to speed. You max out and make a decision that you're going to, at a minimum, get our matching funds. Get your matching funds. If you work for a company and they say, hey, we're going to match you 4%, well, dadgummit, you're going to do 4% because 4 is 8. How about that? So you put in 4%, you get 8%. That's pretty good. Then you get a tax deduction on that. You also have access to what's called HSA contributions, health savings contributions. We want to fund the emergency fund and be on a budget to make sure that we're not going to spend more than we make. We're going to set up automatic drafts. Maybe that's for your Roth IRA, whatever it may be. I would encourage you, if you've listened today and you're learning, there's a lot more. We've been doing this for 40 years. And when you do it for 40 years, you watch people and you learn from people, watch what people do. And then we put it in the form of a plan. If you would like help, you should reach out to us and do a quick phone call to find out if we're a match. Also, taxes are a big deal. I like to tell people that taxes are the only big bill that we pay and don't think about. So we want to work on that and get our plan in place. So today's show was your financial GPS. Visit RoyMatlockJr.com to listen to our podcast, download our different free resources. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.